Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Zack Snyder Retrospective. I am Stick Trask now.
I am the dancer, Kirkle Thatcher.
I'm Dylan Nuss.
I'm Sweet Pea Taylorfield.
Taylorfield, Sweet Pea, where can they find us on the social media threads? And well, I guess that's one place we will be in 2024. But, next week, me and Kirkland will be reviewing Rebel Moon. So we'll have that going on and other stuff next week. But where can you find that?
Ladies and gentlemen, with our internet connection, in the search bar, GeekVerse.ca is our home base. GeekVerseCast our Twitter. GeekVerse is our Facebook.
Yes, like I said, year end, we still got some stuff coming up. We got the best game of the year. What are you calling that next week episode, Dylan?
Game of the Year, Side Quest Game of the Year, Part 2.
Boom, there you go. You got Game of the Year. You got this. You'll have our Better Watch Out, our Christmas retrospective. You'll have Aquaman 2 and Rebel Moon. So for the week after, I think you guys record a side quest, and I might do a Trust Told You, but the week after, probably going to be a bit more of a quieter stuff, but you'll have nice 5 episodes this week dropping to kind of enjoy over the holiday weekend or week, whatever you're doing. So I hope you're having a good time. But yes, as I said, it's kind of continuing because we have done this before. We've done a Man of Steel retrospective. We did a Watchmen retrospective. We did what do we do for Army of the Dead? What's his movie? Dawn of the Dead. Yeah, we did that. So we have a good review base and retrospective base of Zack Snyder stuff, which is funny because, he's not like one of our favorite directors, but he always does numbers, so hence why we do a Zack Snyder retrospective, because there's always something. But yeah, we're 2 movies away from completing his whole filmography, so I'm sure we will get there with Rebel Moon.
What's left at this point?
300 and Legends of the Guardians, Owls of Ga'Hoole.
Oh, right.
The animated movie he did.
I've never seen 300 before.
Oh, that'll be a fun one. If you
Did you do the second 300 as well? Rise
No, he didn't. No, so we can skip that one. Other than Ava Green looking mighty spicy in that, there's not much to the second 300. So, but yes, we put up the patrons or the Patreon producers, which you can go do because Patreon producers, especially look out in 2024, you might get to pick a few more things we do. But yes, that's what happens when we do retrospectives of directors, actors, or holiday seasons. Say, hey, here's a couple movies. Make a vote, and somehow they chose Sucker Punch. I thought it was going to be 300. I was surprised because Sucker Punch is like, and I don't know what these guys think, but it is usually looked down as his worst or least film. So I didn't think that would get it, but maybe that sometimes, as we learned in COVID, a lot of people just gave us films that they thought were really bad because they just want us to talk about them. So I'm not sure what the thinking was between the producers, but thank you for voting. And let's Taylor, let's go with you. What did you think of Sucker Punch? Had you ever seen it before at this point? And now what do you think about it how many years later?
Yeah, so I saw this back when I came in theaters. That was the last time I saw it. I got my buddies together and we went and saw it. And there's a few things I forgot.
Snyder Bros.
Snyder Bros.
Yeah.
Oh,
fuck yeah.
But it's funny because this we saw it in theaters, and then it popped back into my life again. Not that I watched it, but it popped back into my life again only a couple years later because I went back in the day, like little Taylor. He was big in those online chat rooms and those video rooms.
What chat rooms is this with the bros?
Oh, yeah. Oh, not with the bros.
Fuck yeah.
No, not with
Look
the bros.
Look at this video.
Just the ladies, no bros here. Just the good old Omegle days. Just flip through the cocks and all that kind of stuff and find like some genuine conversations. But
what? Wait, what'd you say? What happened?
Did you ever do the Omegle stuff back in the day?
Why'd you just say cocks though?
That was the thing. There would always be
You
dudes
don't know
just
that?
with their cocks out. Was it Omegle?
It's
There's
Omegle, and there's like Russian roulette one
yeah,
too.
That's what it was. Because they did a South Park skit about that one.
What are you guys doing?
Have you never heard of it? It's a video chat room. So there's like a chat box and there's webcam, and you just cycle through, like keep talking, like you can talk to someone, then hit next. So you cycle through, and there are some really cool people on there, but every once in a while you go through, and then there's just there's a guy with the cock out just fucking beating it off.
What the fuck?
I can't believe I've never heard of this, Travis.
No, I thought this retrospective was going to start.
I was busy talking to real girls, apparently not looking through Omega Goal or whatever.
Worst one was the guy wearing a jigsaw mask, and he was right there just fucking. But
Still
anyway,
ingrained in your brain.
Wait, was he wearing a jigsaw mask or a Billy the Puppet mask?
Oh, sorry, Billy the Puppet mask.
I wish he was wearing a Tobin Bell mask. Just going into. Okay, save that for the next originals. We'll circle back and have a longer conversation about
circle
this.
back.
January, yeah, we'll circle back. Look out for January. We'll have a whole episode Patreon. So there you go.
So yeah. Anyways, the affiliation with that is there's one lady that I met there back in the day, and wanted to give her a gift, and so the gift.
So you took it out. Put on the mask.
I put my Billy the Puppet mask on.
What is this gift that you gave her?
Start.
So the gift.
Gave her a gift. What type of gift you giving on these chats? Oh my!
The gift was a hard copy DVD of Sucker Punch. Mailed off. And like she lived out in the States or whatever, so it took a while to get out there. But yeah, that was the
what
second
did you
time.
get in return?
Oh, nothing. No, that was the second time Sucker Punch was in my life for that period of time. And now it is here.
Good story.
The third time again. Yeah. So there's a little backstory there.
Oh my god! I should have let you go last. I got none of our backstories going to compare to this.
But yeah, overall, I think that the movie has a lot of really cool sequences, and I can see where my younger self watching it probably got confused in how they combine two narratives. Not the like
confusion?
fantastic. What's the confusion? Not the fantastical side of things. That was definitely much like more obvious where it fit into the narrative here. But the narrative that it was falling back on, and that mixed with the actual narrative, I think my younger self got confused. So rewatching it now, it was cool to kind of properly understand how this was unfolding and just really understand certain events and just be reminded too that there were some great people involved with this film. I had no idea that Oscar Isaacs was in this movie at all. Like that blew my mind. So that was really cool to see. And yeah, just a couple other sequences that I feel like they aged well. CGI is very prominent here, but just some sequences that I really did enjoy.
Just in stereo, it just cocked her head.
But yeah, no, I thought it was a really, really fun time. I actually enjoyed it a lot more than I thought it would, because I was definitely gunning for Guardians of the Ghoul. That was my hope. But
he was messaging with patrons every day on Omega or whatever.
Did you like this movie when you saw it in theaters back in the day?
I did, but I wasn't enough to just kind of like run back and see it. And I attribute that to me being younger and just enjoying the action sequences and not caring for the storyline stuff necessarily.
This movie is made for teenage boys for sure.
Absolutely.
I'll go because I like to go back and forth, and I feel like I got a good rhythm because I don't think Dylan's ever seen this movie, so I was leading off with him or ending off with him. Yeah, it's interesting with Snyder. We always talk about because he's an interesting cat where like there's the DC stuff, there's other stuff. I don't think he's ever made a bad movie. I think there's stuff in the DC realm that I didn't agree with. That doesn't really work. But I've never failed a Zack Snyder movie, but that's definitely happening today. I do not like this movie one bit. I didn't like it. I didn't see it in theaters, but I just remember seeing the previews, just being like, this just does not look quality, does not look good. Especially this is me coming off of, I like 300, I liked Undead, but I loved Watchmen. So this is the one after Watchmen. So that's why I was like somewhat invested of like, okay, I like this cast. Even like Oscar Isaac I didn't know back then, but just other people. John Hamm I liked. Carla, I can never say her name, Gajicho or whatever. There's some people there like Vanessa Hudgens coming off that High School Musical hype. So it's like, okay. But I was excited, but the previews never got me. So I never like want to see it with the bros or friends or parents. I was just like, I'll wait. And then I think I saw it once and it left my mind, and I know why. It's not good for me. I think like the when you do the two universes, and that's why, yeah, of course there'll be spoilers. So if you haven't seen it, go watch it. Comes back. There's like the real timeline, whatever debatable real timeline, what's happening in the dance show, and then there's like the I don't know, samurai action, just the action plays. I think that all looks super ugly. And I'm not even talking about like, oh, the CGI bad. I just think that just the design, the color grading, the look of it, it just looks it looks like now when people throw up stuff, they're like, oh, this is AI created image. That's what those sequences feel like. They feel like AI created sequences, and I know it wasn't. So it's fine because I know, like, hey, that's what he wanted, and some people might like that aesthetic. None of that really worked for me, and I think that I'm always down for, hey, you have a movie, and we're using, and the movie has a good message and it has a good vibe as far as like it's about these women, they're being oppressed, they're being taken advantage. I think what he's going for is like the same thing people talk about, like, oh, they're always dressed scantily clad. It's like, well, I get why they did that because it is the men's view, and that's the point, because the men are forced that on them. Like, I understand certain things. I think that's where happens with Snyder, and sometimes that he has great high level ideas and sometimes the execution is not there. I think that happens with BVS, with Man of Steel. I hope that doesn't happen with Rebel Moon. So that's the thing where sometimes he misses that, where something like Watchmen or 300, I think he nails it. So I think this is a time where he has some great concepts, but there's a big miss. But what I was saying is I like the idea of, okay, there's the real world stuff and they're using this cool alternate world to work out these issues. And instead of showing the actual dance or the characters talking, it's like through action and cool samurai and fighting. But the problem is, if you don't like any of that, I'm not invested. So anytime we flip to that world, I was not enjoying this action stuff. So, and that's like a lot of the movie. It's a bulk. I wanted to get back to the girls in the real world. I was enjoying that. I actually wish the whole movie was just that, because I like the cast. I like things going on. I think Oscar Isaac is great as this piece of shit character. So I was way more invested in this imagination world where they share some fever dream, or maybe there is something real going on. Whatever you feel about, I don't care about it because I don't enjoy much of what's going on, and that's what's tough. You have to nail, if you're going to do the imaginary friend, the dream scenario, whatever it is, you got to nail that. And for me, it doesn't. Even though I think it's probably it's a taste thing, and yeah, this is not my taste. And there's some bright spots, but even the first 5 minutes of this movie, I'm like, woof, I remember why I don't like this. Like there's weird montages, there's classic Snyder slow-mo where it just doesn't always work for me when I'm not enjoying it. So yeah, I do not enjoy this movie, and I will never ever watch this. I know this is another one though. Again, this is one that like the whole third act was changed because him and the studio didn't agree, and yet I know they're trying to release the Snyder Punch, so
oh no,
maybe one day I'd give that a shot. But like, which is funny, this guy just I think it's a good thing he's at Netflix, because Netflix is going to let him do whatever he wants. So I think that's a good thing, as
no
we've seen
now.
Yeah, I think it is a good thing, because like, as clearly the way he likes to make movies is not good in the studio way, as far as they always butt heads. The whole third act is like completely changed apparently, and there's other trivia stuff I have that was like the studios say, you gotta cut this, you gotta cut this. So maybe there is a great movie, because I said that about Justice League, and when I saw the Snyder Cut, I went, okay, you know what, this was actually great, and I see where he was going with it. So yeah, this, whatever this version of the movie is though, not good. And there's not too much bright spots I have for it, but it's not also like an all-time bad thing like a Howard the Duck or something. It's just kind of like a whimper. So that's where I am. Kirkland Patzer, where was your first time?
Yeah,
Also
this was my first time actually. No chat.
Okay, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, this was, I feel like I had heard the like Sucker Punch, but like maybe I just assumed that was the studio, or maybe a different type of movie. Like I had heard this in the wind blowing somewhere, but yeah, never seen a trailer for it. Never, like, really knew nothing about it. Didn't know it was a Zack Snyder movie until obviously the Patreon pick. So going into this extremely blind, and what a ride! What a ride this one was. I feel like I'll just say it, I really didn't like it. I didn't like the movie. I won't ever revisit it. However, I feel like there is some really interesting things in here. Not even just like movie concept, but also just like execution wise. Like, this movie really felt like an anime, actually. There's a lot of like just randomness going on, and like crazy action sequences that like you can't even really explain how we got from like point A to point B, because of just, I don't know, from the start of the movie, like I never would have thought that she'd be fighting just these giant samurai beast type things in like a fucking schoolgirl outfit, and like big like gun with a giant sword. That is so anime in that aspect of just like over the top action. So I feel like I appreciated just like swinging for the fences with like the amount of stuff. Like, we had like World War II sequences in here. I didn't know what we were going to get next for these action sequences. So I think in that aspect, I will kind of tip my hat on just, again, like the boldness of wanting to do that stuff. However, I think the issue with specifically those action sequences is it's just so they look so bad, like what Travis said. I think a big portion of it might be the datedness of it. Like maybe if I did see this as a wee young lad, you know, not just for the females on screen, but pretty much just like not having an eye for comparing it to like modern CGI stuff. Like maybe those sequences would have looked a lot better because like there's certain action movies that I think of in a highlight of just when I watched them as a kid, but when I rewatch them now, it's just like, oh man, I can't even watch them. The CGI is so awful. They just really take you out of it. And unfortunately, that kind of was the case for a lot of these action sequences. And there's a lot of action sequences in here. There's a lot of different like portaling to different worlds and just like completely CGI. Like it's so obvious that it's just a green screen. So that really took me out of it. There is like, this is a pretty long movie too. I think it's like around 2 hours and 10 minutes or something like that. So if we have a lot of action in there, like that's a lot of lull moments, at least for me. So yeah, that's the action aspect of it. I already mentioned that I'm applying it for just the anime style of it. It's just so strange when she starts to do this little dance thing and all of a sudden it's just, we're in a completely different world. Like I was kind of digging that. Like it was just so weird and it was keeping me engaged enough there. Travis, you already mentioned like just the I don't know, like the bigger message I think of like what these girls are kind of struggling with and just oppressing them, but like them able to find just some strength in each other. Like I did like that storyline of it. I really like seeing Oscar Isaac just being a total piece of shit. I didn't know obviously about this movie, let alone the characters that are in it. And man, there are characters in this. Like John Hamm, I was so shocked to see him in here. Vanessa Hudgens, it's like, okay, like what else is she doing after High School Musical? I buy her being in this, but just some of the doctor character as well. It was kind of interesting to see here and here. So I was very just shocked, I think, for multiple reasons while watching this movie. And I think the twists was another thing that kind of kept me engaged enough. So I think there was enough in here that made me want to get through the movie, but unfortunately it's just, I don't know, now that I've seen it, there's nothing really that makes me want to rewatch it. The datedness of the action is just really, it was really tough to get through. For like, when did this even come out? It seemed like an early 2011. So it seemed even older than that, honestly. Like this is after Iron Man 1.
It's after The Dark Knight and stuff. Like, but it's strange because that's always something that people talk about with like Snyder and his team that he works with. Is usually the visuals aren't an issue, right? Like you look at Man of Steel, BVS, like even Watchmen, when you go back there, it's like that's a big thing for him. Is the visuals are always crisp. You always go, oh, the story might be bad, but then that's where I feel like some of that world is. There's a little iffiness going on with some of the visuals happening. Maybe because there's just so much of it. Like it feels like bad volume too at times when we talk about that on Disney Plus and stuff. And it's like, oh, this is clearly not a sound. Right. It's just like a stage behind them, and that has that a lot here.
Yeah. So I think the last thing I'll say too is our protagonist character, Baby Doll. I think that was her name. She was just kind of forgettable for me. I feel like she doesn't have a lot of like powerful dialogue. She definitely is like a tragic character that's gone through a lot, and I think it works in those action sequences when she's just not saying anything. Like she is this like it very much seems like an anime of just this like badass schoolgirl type outfit character with like all these crazy weapons and just kicking ass. But when we get those silent moments of her like just, I don't know, trying to rally the troops and like be the general amongst the other girls of like leading them on these missions, she just didn't really have a lot of charisma for me. I'd never really heard of this actress or seen her in anything else.
She was in a series of Unfortunate Events. She was in that back in the day, that movie. She was the main kid.
Really? Okay. Yeah. Like the one with Jim Carrey?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
There you go.
So I've seen her in 2 projects. I like that other one a lot more than her appearance here. But so I mean, I'm excited to unpack it, at least talk to you guys about this movie. But yeah, I'll leave my thoughts there.
Yeah, I think I'm very close to Kirkland on this, and I guess therefore also Travis. I'm very conflicted on this movie because I like what you said, Kirkland, of like, yeah, like not a good movie, but like, man, it's trying stuff. It's like ambitious. It's going for something. Most of the time, I don't really know what it's going for because it's split between like super dark and serious. Like the subject matter is really dark. The visuals, as you mentioned, like I think Travis, like for all those action sequences, like the color grading is what you mentioned. Of like, yeah, the color palettes of these things are just awful. Like, it just looks terrible and boring and bland. So all of it's like very serious, but then the rest of the movie is so melodramatic. Like the music, the slow-mos, like the cheesy overacting at times. Even like in the opening sequence when she's like in the back of the car and the water on like the window like turn like makes the letters sucker punch. Like this is such a melodramatic movie. So that like really goes opposite of like the rest of this serious tone, and I think it just ends up being really messy because of that. And really inconsistent, and it just feels like 2 or 3 movies jammed into one. And when I was watching this, I just felt like the vibe I'm getting from this movie is that Zack Snyder wanted to do these cool action sequences. He wanted to do like a World War II thing. He wanted to do like some dragon and like some undead armies, all these things. And then he like that was the genesis of the idea. And then it became, okay, how do I create a story that brings all these together? And I tried to look up a bunch of interviews on this because that's one of those things. Like this movie was really interesting and weird, and it made me want to go afterwards and look up more and learn more about it, which not a lot of bad movies do. So at least it has something going for it. And it seems like that's probably what happened to some extent, where he was like, okay, how do I make this make sense? I just want to make all these cool action sequences. And I think that part of it like doesn't work for me at all. I think that was a quite big failure, and those action sequences take too long. This movie, like, yeah, let's shave 30 minutes off this. I think it would have been way better for it. So yeah, I definitely have quite a few things to say about this one, but overall I think it's pretty weak. And I think comparing it to other Snyder stuff, I'm definitely not a Snyder boy. I haven't seen Watchmen or 300, which are probably considered his best movies, I would imagine. Man of Steel, it's been so long, I don't even really want to throw criticism at it. Just like it was boring, but it was like I watched it so long ago. But then like I loved Army of the Dead, and I think, is that what it's called? Army of the Dead?
Army of the Dead, yeah.
Yeah, I'm mixing up with Evil Dead, Army of Dark.
Yeah.
All these names. I love that movie. I think the best part about it for me is just like the cast of characters is fantastic. They all have like good personalities or good gimmicks to them, and they work really well alongside each other. But to me, that's where like this movie is the weakest, where the whole cast of like these 5 women are all so boring and have such little personality. Like as you mentioned, Kirkland, the protagonist here is so bland and uninteresting. Like she doesn't even have a word in this movie until like a half an hour in. I was tracking that. I'm like, is this going to be a silent protagonist movie the whole way through? So I made note of it. I'm like, man, it's like we're 25 minutes in. She's like has said her first word here. That's kind of crazy. So she just doesn't have much going on. And I feel like there's, obviously a lot to be dug into there on the emotional side of what's going on for her. But I feel like we don't really get that. But then like all these other characters, specifically those 4 women that make the team, they only kind of exist in orbit of her character. And so if she's weak, then they all end up being weak. Like Vanessa Hudgens and Jamie Chung, I think her name is. There's nothing going on for those characters. They have not a single meat or potatoes. There's nothing on that plate. And then the other 2 characters are just like, okay, one of them is going to be the one that is like hard to, puts a wall up. It's hard for the character to get through, and she's going to be like kind of the hardball character. And then the other one's like the complete opposite, where she's like, oh, that's like the foot in the door, the very friendly presence. And that's like it. That's their entire character arc. So when big emotional things happen to these characters or for these characters at the end, I just don't care at all about any of it. So yeah, I think this is a very weak movie overall for me, but it's got something about it that's interesting. So there's still some value to be had here. It's just, yeah, as you guys mentioned, I'll never watch this again. Not a fan.
Yeah, and that's where I just got to start. I go pull Patzer, but start from the beginning. The opening of this movie is so bizarre. This weird, like, we have multiple covers, which I learned I had in the trivia that Emily Browning sang 3 of them. Sweet Dreams is what the opening was, Asleep, and then Where Is My Mind. So you're getting these lots of popular songs getting covered in here, and she's singing them or featured in them. But just this weird, like, quick montage of they lose her mom, and then they have all the money, but this guy's still taking care of them, and he's abusive, and her sister falls out a window, and baby doll goes to shoot him a few times but misses, and it's just like it's a very, I don't know why, it's a very simple origin, but for some reason they make it not palatable in a way. Like it's just the way they present it, I don't care. I don't care for this like grungy sort of music video, whatever route they try. And Snyder does that a lot. That was the beginning of Watchmen too. Like but that is like the beginning of Watchmen. The opening credits is hailed one of the greatest opening credits of all time. And this is for me. It's just like I don't know. I don't like any of it. It still in some sense doesn't even make sense. Now, of course, we're in a world where girls are being kidnapped, forced to dance. It's like, okay, we're in like a comic book world where there's, things happening that don't happen in our world. But yeah, Taylor, you had your hand up there?
Well, did the sister fall out a window? I thought what's her name? Like Baby Doll or whatever. She was climbing out the window, but then I thought she shot her sister with a stray bullet trying to shoot her stepfather.
Yeah, but even the way it's like... I think you're right, but like the positioning of where the gun and the bullet is to where it's just like
that doesn't align very well.
It's overcomplicated for like I almost don't think I feel like you just cut that, and because the whole characters are always asking Baby Doll like, oh, what's your story, and she doesn't give it for a while, and I don't actually think she ever gives it to those girls. Am I remember? Does she ever have a moment where she just says like, this happened to my dad and sister? So it's just like. I would rather them not do it and leave it a mystery, or you reveal it later on. But the opening of this film, it's odd. So yeah, I did not right away. I was reminded of I don't like this style, and that's where a lot of this movie feels like it's like portions are just music video movie making, and I don't like that. I don't need I think it can work, but here wasn't working for me. But yeah, the opening, yeah. So I guess I don't know, they deem her insane, so she goes to asylum and the guy gets like all the money, I guess, but that didn't seem like that was in the will. It just seemed like it went strictly to the two daughters. So
well, yeah, it was going to the daughters, but the dad wanted to get it, so he's going to kill the two daughters drunkenly, but then that backfires because he kind of sobers up when she pulls a gun on him. But
even if he kills her, I don't think he would get the stuff.
No, that's extremely sus.
The cops will figure it out. He's not panning out. But that's the weird thing because his plan is to pay Oscar Isaacs because Oscar Isaacs is leading his own kind of thing here under the table where they forge signatures and very, 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 very bad. But no matter what, I feel like the dad would have got caught and it would have trickled down to Oscar Isaac's character.
Didn't he pay Oscar Isaac like $2,000 too?
He pulled out a bunch of $10 bills,
and then it was $2,000.
Like really, that much money? Like that's Oscar Isaac's doing all this for fucking chump change
for $2,000.
Could buy a used Honda Civic for that.
Yeah, like it was odd. I mean, like you got the money, yeah, it's $2,000 now. You said $1,400 over the phone. It's like, oh, okay. And again, this is a different world, right? So I'm sure that maybe the dad would have killed him, maybe not got caught, right? Because maybe they're just trying to show that women in general in this world, that they're trying to make the real life. Allegory, I get that. It's done in a very messy way. So, but
I was very confused by the opening as well. I feel like really, I was just like, what is going on here? And then we get to the hospital. And it's like, okay, this is kind of like the setting, I guess, of the movie. And then obviously, as soon as like the lobotomy is starting to transpire, we just get taken to another thing. I had to like rewind the movie. I'm like, did I like fast forward? Like, what is going on here? I was very confused. And then once I realized that this is just kind of what's happening, it kind of piqued my interest a little bit, because this is like where are we going? This is like a Alice in Wonderland sort of situation. And then fast forward a little bit further when we get to when she meets the nobleman or whatever that suits her up with the weapons. I feel like the movie kept losing me and then like kind of like bringing me back in and then like kind of losing me a little bit and then bringing me back in. So it was an interesting ride all around.
Where do we want to go? Where's the point? Do we want to go in order? Do we want to focus on a character? Talk about the action world? Where?
I'm curious. The different weird alternative sequences, which one was your guys' favorite? Because you got the World War II zombies, you got the medieval dragons, and you had like the futuristic train tech robots. I think there was one more.
You even got like the musical number, I guess, just like the.
Yeah, which musical number? I think there was one more, and I can't remember.
What are you talking about? Like like when she first gets there, right, with the samurai, or did you already?
Yeah, samurai. Yeah, thank you.
I feel like for me, it is the World War II one, just with like the Nazi zombies or whatever they were. That was just, I don't know. I think the CGI wasn't great in it, but it was interesting enough. It was very gray, and I feel like it fit like that World War II setting, at least with all the Zeppelins in the air. and when she just duels like her undead stepfather in the whatever that was. That was kind of interesting for me. I like overall though, like they all kind of looked really bad, but that one, I think it might have just been like the gray palette that kind of saved it a little bit for me. It wasn't as bad as some of the other ones. Like whenever they have like really bad CGI that's like bright, I feel like it's a lot more noticeable as opposed to the darker ones. So that would probably be my pick.
I mean, I'm partial to like fantasy stuff, so I think I like the medieval castle setting the most if I had to pick one. But even then, like I think maybe the samurai fight, just because it's like the most succinct, and I feel like story wise, it kind of makes the most sense. It's like this kind of brief setup where the rest of them, like I don't know, there's this idea, right, that you go to the samurai section and then he establishes like this goal. You have to get the map, you have to get the fire, you have to get
something else,
the key,
it's a
surprise. And then there's like the surprise at the end. And I feel like for a bit I was like, okay, this is interesting. Like this medieval castle, like there's this dragon breathing fire, and that's where they get the fire from. Like, okay, that's kind of cool thematically, but like none of the other ones really did that. Like I guess there's like they're saying like the trenches are very maze-like because that makes sense for the map of this place. But then like the robot future bomb one, I'm like, okay, so this one's fire again. Like I was kind of losing the plot on what they were kind of trying to go for there.
I'll cop out. I don't have a favorite. They're all the same in my mind. Like there's things I like and dislike about them both. Like Dill made good points about the samurai fight, but the actual fighting I don't like. It's like the CGI or it's the slow-mo Snyder I don't like, where everything is, and it's not
slow-mo and then fast-mo and then like going back and forth. Really, really weird choice. It makes the whole movie feel weird.
It's not like coordinated well. Like it's not like an entertaining fight to watch. Like the zombie ones is good, but I feel like that even goes on too long. The train has some stuff, but that's when that big mech is really popping off, and I don't know, that's when some of the CGI is, man. Like I like some of the stuff they're falling from the sky and everything. So like they're all like a very 50-50, because like I said, I didn't really enjoy any of that stuff. So for me, it was like I was always like, okay, let's get out of here and shorten these sequences. And I get the pitch, and maybe that's the idea, is like, okay, well, we can tell this more deeper story, but we got some cool action here. But again, I just wasn't jiving with most of it, and it's probably based off the look again. But even the choreography, there wasn't too much. Like even when they're in the trenches fighting, it was just like a lot of shooting and like I don't know.
And it really felt like those like fantasy sequences. It felt like it was just a step down from like the Matrix, where the Matrix, they take you to this like program where anything can kind of happen, and there is these like wild things going on, but there's like phenomenal fight choreography of like you kind of throw out gravity, you kind of forget about that, but it works because this is a program. Whereas here, it is very anime style in the sense they have like no armor and like samurai swords, but they're kicking ass. But it's just kind of unimpressive, and the things that they're combating didn't look great, so it was just kind of like a mess on screen. But it very much felt like that, like the Matrix comparison, especially with like the first samurai one, when like the undead giant samurai thing just kicks her like through the wall. I just pictured like Neo going flying through the building there, but noticeable step down.
Several members of cast and crew semi-humorously describe this movie as one flew over the Matrix. So there you go. So
there you go. Like
it was known on set that what they're like, this is a lot like.
That's what Snyder wrote down. He's like, think this.
Speaking of like the theme of each place being tied to like the goal that they're achieving at that time, I thought it would have made a lot more sense. And maybe for the scale it wouldn't have, but I think the scale would have made more sense if you had the samurai one in place of that robot future one, because the goal of that sequence is they're trying to get the knife right from the chef in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And so that would have made sense. You're fighting like some samurais that have like their swords and whatnot, would have made sense, kind of like the dragon in the fire. So I feel like even switching that would have made more sense. Once again, maybe the scale of it is why they did it the opposite way, because that seems like a nice appetizer one compared to like these literal armies. And like also I thought that was funny that there's like an army of the dead in this, which is like a later movie that he makes. So obviously he's revisiting. It's almost like a bit of a best of, even though this is like before some of those other things came out. But clearly he just likes making undead people and wants action sequences with them, and he'll find any story reason to get there when he's making these movies.
And it's funny, don't you guys, like, I don't know how much you remember BVS, but I feel like with BVS and just like, like the like nightmare world where it's that like orange and tanny with Batman has the trench coat and everything like that. Like I feel like that's like the version of it done well. Like whatever this world was, and that's where it's a combo of there's CGI and there's realism there. And I wish this world was more like that. So again, just as some stuff looking similar to his other works, I feel like this looks like the nightmare world that Superman eventually takes over in Apocalypse. So it's like some of the aesthetic, and I think he does it better later on. And I would argue he does the Army of the Dead stuff better later on as well. So maybe he's working through some of these ideas. I'm not sure what's going to pop up in Rebel Moon from this movie. Maybe the samurai portions, because there's a lot of people with like, they have, I think their lightsabers are like fire swords or something like that. Like they're like magma swords or something. So maybe you'll get some sort of samurai stuff there. But
speaking of that, the one with like the knife sequence when they're fighting the chef, I did like how they incorporated, I think, like the fantasy world element of like some sort of sacrifice, and then that leads to like Rocket getting stabbed. Like that was kind of fun, of like having what's actually happening in a just really over the top sci-fi sense. Because like what does she even do? She like throws them off of the train, right? Yeah, that's right. And then that's what saves them, where she kind of makes the sacrifice to get stabbed by the chef. So like that sort of like just, I don't know, like sting.
The reality is kind of
thank you. Yeah, that was cool usage there. Although I didn't love like visually what was happening on screen. Again, like I did appreciate the attempt of the execution, and I think that's just like the theme throughout this entire movie for me. It's just like I want to give them more because I do appreciate like the wildness of the decisions. It's just, you can't just praise them if the execution was was lacking.
So what do you guys take that as then? Do you take that as the action stuff is just like a fever dream, as something they're going through, like a folie douce as Joker 2 coming out? Or is this like an actual stuff that's happening and it's like reflecting the real world? Like what do you look upon the action other than I feel it's just like a movie like, okay, we can do these cool action stuff. Like, like actually in the movie, because I feel like my issue with it is it works both ways, and that makes it not work both ways for me. I wish it was more committed to one. I know some might be like, oh, that's the fun, because it's choose your own adventure. But I think I'd rather just, okay, this is not all real, or this is actually happening, and it, like you said, like the Matrix, where the Matrix isn't real, but it is still real, right? Like you can die in the Matrix. So I don't think the movie makes it clear enough, but I wasn't sure if you guys had like what way you looked upon the action world.
For me, that's one of those things that like fits in with the melodrama, where I just think she is just doing a dance, and it's like a really cool dance, and the melodramatic part is like how people are reacting to it. Like Oscar Isaac, who's like this evil guy, is like, oh my god, it's such a beautiful
He's
dance.
crying.
Like it's changing my like emotional. My heart, like my heart grew 3 sizes that day. Like, all this stuff is like so over exaggerated for this person just doing this dance, and like of course we never really see the dance, but we have to imagine when she's flipping doing a jump over a samurai that she's doing a jump in real life. So to me, like I guess my canon for this movie, but then like the ending kind of throws all of my canon out the window, is that like I don't think she ever was in a mental asylum. I think she just was sent to like a brothel, and she was envisioning that as like as a mental asylum, is essentially like as a prison, and then all those sequences are just in her head and only her head, which that was where I got a bit confused too, because there's all like the movie is kind of setting up like, oh, this lobotomy is going to happen in 4 or 5 days, so that's kind of the impetus for why she needs to get out of here so quick. But like, so however these other characters also got lobotomies, and is that why they are the way? Like they seem normal, all things considered. So is she the only one getting a lobotomy? Is that like why would she be the only one to get one?
I took it like she was the only one that got lobotomized, because like it's not really like a strong reasoning, but I just took it as like that is why the stepfather paid Oscar Isaac was to do that. But like because of the characters like just kind of their behavior, it doesn't seem like they're lobotomized, kind of what you were touching upon, but they also don't clearly say one way or the other. So that's just the way that I interpret it.
So we don't really know like why they're here, what happened.
No, exactly.
Outside of it, right?
But like it is an option, obviously, that Oscar Isaac and crew are offering these sleazy individuals. So
one of our services.
Yeah, it's one of the bonuses you can pay for. But I don't know, how else did you guys take it?
Well, it's hard to tell who's been put here by who, obviously, because we are lacking backstories of other characters. Whereas Sweet Pea and her sister, it sounds like when you see mom, like go tell her I love her, whatever Rocket was saying. So it makes that implication that their family didn't put them in there. How were they put in there? Were they just abducted?
And that's where it's tough with like when you talk about at the beginning with the dad and the earnings, maybe in this world because he's a man. If he just killed him, he'd get all the money. So clearly, I think they're trying to make it a way where women are, brought in, they're abused and stuff. Again, there's lots of parallels to our world, but even a higher sense in this world where, they just found these two women not living with their family, so that gives them the right just to like incorporate them into this. Because they just chose to run away, so that doesn't make how did they get there. But I think it's just kind of like almost like a sex trafficking thing sort of way, like Dylan said. It's just a brothel that they took advantage of it. So nothing legal's happening there. But
so where do you guys think the insane asylum part falls into it then? Like, is that existent whatsoever? Is the lobotomy, because that kind of fits like aesthetically the theme, like that section with the lobotomy, or I guess that could just be like some hidden room in this big brothel place, or like maybe that place is still like using mental asylum as like they're covering on the outside. So
it could be,
I don't know where the reality ends.
I think that's what it is. I think the health center is the cover, and then they use some of these people for dance or whatever.
Right.
Probably other people that aren't like the attractive young females. They might be using them for other means. And then so I could see it being like a building adjacent or even a similar floor, because it doesn't seem like they take that much time to get from to and from. So yeah, I think it's in the same vicinity, and then it's just a kind of I guess they're still running an asylum, right? So I guess they're still making money off the government that way too. As far as
you guys are saying, it's all one. It's not a dream sequence, because I'm pretty sure that the club scene, that's all a dream hallucination sequence. The asylum was what's real.
Yeah. See, I'm with Dylan that you could argue that it's not, because it's tough because I know Oscar Isaac has that mustache, but that could just easily be like a Gomez put on mustache with. Like,
but even the
showman,
lighting
right?
is different, and I feel like that's
but
describe it as being a different piece, like in our mind.
It could be. It could just be different locations, right? Like that's what people use that for lighting as well too. So I like it's tough. Like, I would hope
I'd knock it down points if it is all one location. I would not be great.
See, and I would knock it down points if it's that way. I don't want it to be all a dream, because then it's just this lady sitting there meeting these people. But like, there's a point to that, because the way Oscar Isaac is looking pretty disheveled at the end. But even then, like, he has the stab wound, so.
But then how could
Taylor,
like,
what's
the
your
cops
theory?
come in at the
can
end?
you lay out your theory?
Well, my theory is that it was a hallucination, and my theory is that like
it's all
the
dream.
doctor, like in this world where the doctor has no say as a dancer, and she's owned by Oscar Isaacs. That's that. But in this world, in the real world, she actually has pull. She got the cops in there, and she made a report. It's like, yeah, this is bullshit. Like, we're dealing with this. This is horrible. And that's the actual real result of what happened there.
Okay,
but then
so what happens in the movie then? Like, none of it happens. Like, you think like she gets to the asylum. And
the
nothing
timing of
happens for a few
things,
days?
the timing of things is weird, because she gets to the asylum, she talks to the doctor, has some moments there, but then where this escape takes place of gathering these items and her getting the lobotomy, I could not tell you, and that's probably just the poor timing of the film, because when she's in the chair getting the lobotomy, the needle, then that's when everything happens. But as she's being walked out, you see where the fire was, you see where certain events had taken place of their planned escape, but then I don't understand where that fits between the lobotomy happening.
I feel like I'm kind of more on Taylor's path on this one, because I really took it like the whole brothel stuff purely because where they are in the like the hospital sequence, it's very like Saw lighting. It's very like gross and creepy. And then as soon as she's about to get the lobotomy, it goes to this like, again, it's a terrible place. It is like a brothel, but it is still like brighter and like seems, I don't even want to say happy, because it is such an evil place as well, but it just seems more fantastical than what the hospital is. So I actually took it like the whole thing was the hospital, and then all of these events, like Oscar Isaac getting stabbed, it kind of happened a similar fashion, other than obviously all the dancing sequences, but like she still stabbed him at some point, but maybe it was just, I don't know, in a hospital type room, but they don't clearly say one way or the other, and that's what's kind of fun about it, I guess. But Travis.
But then what doesn't line up is then why in those sequences would Oscar Isaac have any power over the doctor at any point?
Well, in the asylum, I think it wasn't power over her. I think
No, but
it
in the
was
dream
just-
sequences, right? If we're saying, hey, oh, the fire happened here, the escape here, you can say, okay, real world, dream world, and you match everything up. But in the dream world, the whole time Oscar Isaac was over that doctor, had power, saying like, oh, they might be your dancers, but I own you. But then if we go to the real world, then the doctor has complete control over Oscar Isaac. It doesn't make sense.
Well, I think
I
it's
took
more
it as like, oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say more so of like he's able to do certain things where just by like being in his position, like he can get access to these girls without the doctor really being able to stop him. Not just so because he has the authority, but because she has no idea that like she can't micromanage everything that's going on. So then he can do these sleazy things around her back. And then that sequence, I took it more so like he's cocky in the sense of like I can do whatever I want and you can't stop me, not so much because I own you, but because I can just get away with it. And again, maybe I'm stretching there, so I don't know if you guys are super strong or against me there.
Well, to add, like, the confusion part for me is like I had this theory the whole time, but then I truly feel like that scene at the end kind of throws everything up in the air.
Yeah.
That's where I don't really feel convinced on anything, but like if I'm not understanding the movie at all, I kind of have to go with my theory because like otherwise I don't really get any of it at all.
Yeah,
that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, it's tough with those, right? Because I feel like I don't think they're doing the Fight Club route where it's okay, everything at the end makes mostly complete sense. They're trying to do, I think, like they leave it up for interpretation, but I just feel like when you do that, you got to watch how many holes, or like how many paths you give. And I think this movie gives too many paths for being too many, like, okay, this thing happens here, but then in sense, this doesn't make sense here. Because I still have problems with the Oscar Isaac and Doctor thing, because there's just times where it's just like, he's just so owning that situation where at the end she's owning the situation. It's just like it's a little odd, and then you just get into stuff with the dad, and oh yeah, I don't know. It is one of those that the more for me I pick it apart and think about it, I unfortunately start to like it less. But because even then it's just like, what's everything happening with the John sequence with the lobotomy at the end? Or John, what did I call him? Did I call him John Hamm?
You said John.
Okay, I thought I called him John Lobotomy for a second.
John
The John Hamm sequence at the end, which that was one that was heavily changed, but it's just like, what's the meaning to any of that? You know, it's just like, because like he's just like a lobotomy guy. Like it's just like that's literally it. He's not. I'm assuming like they're all pieces of shit, I guess. But like I was waiting for something more. There's nothing more with him. He's just like the doctor performs a lot of lobotomies. So why is she having like this sequence where he may or may not be sexually assaulting her? He may or may not be a good guy. It's just like. Nothing comes of that. So it's just like, what's that? That's where it's like there's stuff where if you want to do these things, I don't know if you're putting them to there's more confusion here, but then it leads to more confusion in a bad way. Because that whole sequence to me this doesn't need to be in there. Again, it was a difference. Like I'll bring up the trivia now because there's a whole other thing in there with the John Hamm thing. Let me find it here because let's see. Okay, so originally a scene between the high roller, which is John Hamm, and baby girl, where he seduces her and makes love to her. The MPA demanded it be cut down. The scene ended up looking like he was taking advantage of her. So Zack Snyder felt it sent the wrong message and ultimately cut the scene altogether. Later, featuring in its full form director's cut, which I don't think really, or I guess that's one here. And then Zack Snyder and Emily Browning have vocal their displeasure about the situation.
To me, that's where that fits the theory of this being a brothel the whole time, and that what they're setting up is that he's not actually doctor like doing the lobotomy. That's just like the vision that she's having from the actual reality of it being this brothel, where instead of actually being a doctor and coming in, he's just like, yeah, some random guy coming in to have sex with her, and they're using the lobotomy as like taking her virginity, and that being like the parallel that is happening in this other world. So a scene like that would maybe reinforce that quite a bit more, or else like why would he be doing that other than just like that being some weird graphic scene that Zack Snyder wanted to film for some reason?
Yeah, and I just also don't like the scene because I know, like, and I get that's what he said, right? Where, like, because that was the scene. So I think, because you guys had that scene, right? Where it's John Hamm and he's like has the eye makeup and they're like talking and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I don't think that's actually in the original movie. I think the only cut that's out there now is like this extended one, and there's still more to it. But like when it's the MPA demanded be cut down, and the scene ended up like he was taking advantage, and Snyder didn't want to have that message sent. I feel like the MPA was right in that situation because like I feel like I get what he's I don't know what he's going for, actually. I get it in a sense where it is baby doll like because it's this guy. I think what he's trying to say that he's not wanting to treat her like a prostitute, that he actually sees something in her, and like it's a perfect woman situation where, or pretty woman situation where she's a prostitute, but he would like, in a sense, like, or like Shmi Skywalker, where he would like buy her, but like that would be his wife, and they would be an actual couple. But at times the scene does come off very like creepy, and I think that's
creepy.
Yeah, and I think that's the way, whether it's Ham or how he was directed, it doesn't come off that way, because she is saying yes to everything, and it is like all consensual, but also at the same time he has bought her, so it's like a lot of times people just have to be consensual. So it's the scene that I understand why they were butting heads, them and the NPA, because it's like I agree that Zack made a film like, oh, that wasn't my intention, but when I watched him, like, that might not be your intention, but it didn't play the great, like, however the scene was layered, it didn't play the greatest for me. Because also, why is baby doll like, I guess it's her way out. I guess it's like, great, there's this nicer guy who's not going to abuse me and take me out of here, but it's just like, it comes in so late too. It's like we've seen John Hamm a couple times, but then out of nowhere he's like this character, and they kind of set him up like he's gonna be another piece of shit guy, and I don't know.
I really didn't like that entire scene, honestly. Because they are leading up to this high roller being this big bad, essentially, like this big, I'm assuming, creep that's just gonna like have sex with her for money at the final sequence. And then when we get to it, he's like, it is kind of a twist on maybe what you'd be expecting, because it is just John Hamm being charismatic, and he's saying all these things, but like I feel like the entire situation goes against kind of what he's saying, because she wakes up in this bed with these two girls that are like stripping her. Yeah. And then he says these things like, I don't want to force you to do it, but like if you do it, like I'll you'll be free, and all these things. It's like, if you're in this situation, why would she, like, you're kind of only giving her one option, right? Like, you either get out of here if you have sex with me by your choice, air quotes, but it's like, that's not really what's going on. So it was a very confusing scene, and also just it's like, oh, this is such a nice guy that's offering me this, but like at the end of the day, like, she has no other option. She's between a rock and a hard place. So I really, really just did not like that sequence. I was expecting, I mean, I didn't have high expectations, but still, I think for how the scene was opening and how the dialogue was starting, I was expecting to go somewhere else, and then he's like on top of her, about to get ready for action. It's just, man, what are they doing here? This is weird.
They make so much zoom-ins on the tie. I'm like, oh, she's gonna get that and strangle him. Like, she's gonna kill him with the tie.
That's what I thought was gonna happen.
But then she's just like into it. I'm like, all right, and I get the idea, because then I think they try to transfer it into like, she's like, because he says that the doctor is like, oh, look like she like wanted it, so like they feel like they're trying to make it seem like she wants the lobotomy so she can get out of there, but it's just like, it's just too many wrinkles, there's too many layers, and not in a good way, where it's just like they all start to fall apart. They're all pages of different books, they're not in the same book, because like that leads to the lobotomy, but the lobotomy didn't do anything, because when they show her face, it's completely normal and she's fine, and she is like a, I don't know, does she have a power? Is it just a real world thing? Oh, I just get frustrated more talking and thinking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I feel like it was also kind of, for me, it was very weak for the positive ending. Not that every movie needs a positive ending, but they tried to do one here with the other character. I don't even, let me see.
Sweet Pea.
Is Sweet Pea the character?
Yeah.
It was Sweet Pea getting away on the bus and all that. And it's like, I don't care about this character whatsoever.
Yeah.
Like, she has not had an intriguing plot in any way. So to me, it didn't really achieve its goal. And I feel like you didn't really need that altogether, especially when like two of those other characters, Vanessa Hudgens and Jamie Chung's characters, just like randomly get shot and die, and there's like no fanfare for it, whatever.
Bitches
of course, the other character gets
right?
like the bigger scene with the getting stabbed and whatnot, but it just didn't work for me. The ending in general.
Like, it's snitches get stitches, Travis, not bitches get stitches.
They do too, you know. Stitches. But he says that line, and I was like, all right. He says that line, and I was like, okay, that was strange, but because he kills them too, but then keeps the other dancers. Like, these girls were all actively trying to escape as well, and I don't know. Again, I just would have preferred them just stick with the, strip all the what's real and what isn't. I actually liked the idea of there's this girl, she's put in a brothel with the other girls, they want to escape. I think there's moments where they could have some more chemistry, but a lot of that's just action and you don't get there. I like Jenna Malone as Rocket. I've always liked Jenna Malone. She always pops in like movies like this and Hunger Games. She's an interesting actress. I know she's playing a gigantic spider to Red Moon, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, so yeah, I like the natural building of, she saves that from the cook, or girl from the cook, and then they sort of be like, oh, we could maybe trust her. And I like the idea of the doctor being like, she wants to, like, she's a part of this, but only a part of this to try and make sure the girls don't get hurt or killed. Like, she's not for the brawl, for the dancing, but it's like, it's the lesser of two evils, which that I believe more than Baby Doll maybe being like falling in love with John Hamm in a minute, being like, oh yeah, like I could love you, I do want to do this. It's like, yeah, that's not the right thing. And when they get killed, I love, like, Carla does a great acting job of like, portraying that. So like there's moments, all my moments are more in the middle of that section there. The cook is dumb. I don't know why he believes these girls are going to dance for him and not think anything's going to go down. Like, this girl just beat the shit out of you a couple days ago. Like, I guess he's just an idiot character. So he's even an idiot, yeah. There's logic jumps even in the portions I like, but for
the doctor, I was really wanting more. I feel like we got like 75% of the way for like a great written character, but they just kind of let it go from there, because they are setting her up that she is kind of caught in the middle amongst all of this. Like, she is looking out for the girls, but she is still like, she's in a bad situation working for these terrible individuals, but she shows like she has some heart there. But I just think that we don't get enough moments amongst her maybe and the girls of like maybe saying, or like maybe finding out a little bit more about like what their plot is and then helping them out in that sense. She's just kind of this like interesting persona of a character, but I just think we don't fully get there to make her really like, by the end of it, it's just like what was the effort there?
Half-baked,
yeah. Great representation there. Definitely a half-baked idea for that character. And man, the scene between her and Oscar Isaac in that office, that was such a great scene, like acting wise for both of them. I thought Oscar Isaac, like, because up until that point, maybe you guys knew, but for me, I didn't really know that he was like the main head honcho. I thought he was just kind of a worker there, mostly because of where it's set up in the hospital sequence at the start. Like, it really does seem like she has a higher position than him, and up until that point, it seems like he's always like making like business decisions, and then she does have the ultimate say amongst these girls. But like right there, he had like the total power, like strong arm on her, and just really brought that like evil charisma. Like he really felt like an imposing character. I mean, I feel like great execution from Oscar Isaac in that sequence of really pulling that off. I want to see some more like bad guy roles from Oscar Isaac, because like him in Ex Machina too, like he's so great when he brings those moments. Very like charming, charismatic character as well, but I think he can definitely take that switch to the sleazy type roles. Which I want to see more from him. But yeah, a little bit disappointed, especially like I feel like I haven't seen Carla in too many things, but everything I have seen her in, I do like her enough. I think my only one I'm really pulling for right now is like Spy Kids. But she is really great.
She's great in Watchmen. Remember, we reviewed that.
Oh,
she's Sally Jupiter.
She's in Watchmen. That's right. Okay.
And there's a big theory that if Snyder's universe kept going, that she was going to be his Catwoman and stuff. And I feel like that her and Ben would have been like
apparently
really
is in
good.
Justice League. She did a voice.
She a voice or something? Yeah, okay. Oh, well, and the other stuff, you need to watch all the Mike Flanagan Netflix stuff.
Right,
like Hill House and House of Usher. Like, she's great in all that stuff. She's
and she's in BVS. Same voice. She's the ship voice for both of those.
Ship voice, yeah. No, it's funny that her, like, Snyder and Flanagan both, like, just keep putting her in project. But yeah, all the Netflix stuff.
And
like
she's in
Bly
Man of
Manor.
Steel as well, as a voice as well. She's in all these things.
all over in a voice in the DC universe.
That's
but no, she's great. She's one of the more underrated actresses out there. She's Gerald's Game, another good Mike Flanagan one you should watch.
Forgot about that.
Did you see that one?
I did see that one actually.
She's just always, she's one of those people that like you'll never like remember. Like I said, I can't even fucking pronounce her last name. Classic dress, but like when she shows up, it's gonna be good. You don't know if the movie's gonna be good or the show's gonna be good, but when she shows up,
The Rock.
Oh, I haven't seen that, so I don't know. I'm sure
she's in there.
Is she like The Rock's ex-wife or something?
Definitely a wife. Can't remember if it's ex or not, but yeah, she's married to him.
What is the other Rock movie with the tower where he has one leg?
Skyscraper.
We got to do a double feature. I think one of these movie nights we got to do, because we keep talking about San Andreas and Sky. Like these keep coming up with these fake movies, and
that could be a good after night and watch along. I feel like I'd rather watch it with people than just alone. But
no, we can't retro that. That'd be sad. So, but she's great. I'm sure she's great in San Andreas. So
random thing that because I was looking really hard to try and find some interviews with Zack Snyder from back in the day about this movie, and unfortunately, it was very hard to find anything at all. And I think the SEO is taking over because I guess there's a lot of talk of doing this new Snyder cut now. So like, even every article was like 2023 or 2022 and whatnot. But yeah, I found a couple things, and one thing that it seemed like happened with this movie too was a change from an R rating to a PG-13, and I'm curious how that changed. I'm curious what that changed about the movie, whether that was like some of the stuff with even just like the tone of like the music and maybe some of the melodramaticness. Like I wonder if they really amped it up and like, okay, let's target this to more of like, this is a perfect movie for a teenage boy who just wants like a hot girl doing like crazy action stuff.
1,000%. I see from the Warner
Spike
Brothers
TV movie.
side.
That's what this was.
And it didn't work because the movie cost $82 million, box office $89 million. So it was a loss. But they were definitely banking on young teen boys.
But I'm curious like how much of the other tonal stuff like changed when they made that decision of maybe even like some of the music changed to something that they thought would fit more of that audience, even though like I said, I don't think it really fits at all. But yeah, there's obviously between the sexual stuff and the violence and whatnot, you could easily see this changing into an R-rated movie without much changes.
And the whole ending's changed. They didn't do that. That's one of the things Snyder talked about this past week with Rebel Moon is that they're working with Warner Brothers, and one of the pitch might be even try to get Jenna Malone and Emily Browning to come back and film some new stuff for this ending, because there was like a whole ending they didn't film. So that's what they've been talking about. I'm like, I don't know.
It's one of those things where like I don't want to say that he's just talking out of his ass and like he's just bullshitting, because obviously he like kind of did this with Snyder Cut where he came back and like it's actually good, and I don't want to say that was the case here, but I just find like when I was going back and all these interviews I could find from back in the day, he's just talking about like trying to defend the movie and saying, oh, they just cut all these scenes and the movie I wanted to make is not reflective here, and I kind of just hate those excuses, but like maybe they're valid. It's so hard to say.
Well, I was talking about this with Emily the other day, because that's the whole thing where like Rebel Moon obviously not getting great reviews, but like I agree it's stupid. That's the 2-hour cut, and then in April the 3-hour cut's coming out, right? And I just feel like it's like after Justice, like I just realized that not that it has to, but I think Snyder's best route is you have to let him do his long stuff, and it has to be R-rated. And maybe some people might argue that should be a TV show, and maybe it should be, but I feel like whatever box he's in, like that's the way. Like I feel like it always ends this route, and I'm not saying that's going to make it better, because I don't know if I think the Justice League situation is a lot different. I don't know if like a bunch of some cuts and some new stuff out of this movie overall will make it work, because I think there's still some stuff contextually.
I don't think so.
I think maybe it'll like help it, but I think overall in the middle there's still stuff like this doesn't work and this doesn't work. But
I mean, even then, like grab any director and get them 10 years later to they can make a new cut of their movie and they can film new things where it's like, okay, well, it's not just a cut of the movie at that point. Now you're talking about how maybe with 10 years of hindsight I can say that this movie wasn't very good and I want to change things and film new scenes. Like anyone could do that. I'm sure like grab Nolan from like a Batman, I'm sure he'd like change a couple things, you know, like anyone looking back at their work with a critical eye all these years later, I'm sure would come up with some changes. So it just seems like a bit of a cop-out, but at the same time, like, who am I to say that? And it was, because that's one thing I was really trying to find in these interviews is, like, how much was the melodrama intentional? Because it just seemed so weird and off-putting and inconsistent to me. And I wanted to, like, find some interviews where he was talking about, like, oh, this tone that I was going for. But, unfortunately, none of the dialogue about this movie is actually about the movie. It's just about how, like, it was not the movie he wanted to make. I'm like, well, what was the movie you wanted to make? Like, tell me that. What was intentional from what we got here? But my research failed me on this one.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm gonna do when the GeekVerse movie comes out and gets terribly reviewed. So, it wasn't the movie I want to make. You know, there's a cut. There's a cut out there. Yeah, GeekVerse Studios came down on me hard. The owners. You know.
Yeah, the lawyers.
Yeah. Anything else? I got trivia, of course, but anything else specifically to shout out? Scenes, moments before we end this? I'm all noted out.
Noted out.
The nobleman dude. I was getting major like Bill vibes from
Scott
Kill
Glenn?
Bill.
Stick,
Yeah.
That role was written for him specifically, and I guess him and Snyder are good friends. They were working on that role for years. But yeah, Scott Glenn always quality. He shows up, does what he needs to do, and like you'll see he's in Daredevil for all 3 seasons, Kirkland. So when you guys eventually retro that in a very similar type of role,
sensei role. Yeah,
Yes.
that was probably my favorite character in this, just because of the Daredevil part of it. I'm like, this is so fun that he played this type of character before.
And regardless, so I actually did really like the ending of the bus scene. Like, I agree with Dylan, where other than us just caring, like, we want this woman to get out of there because it's a terrible situation, there's not much investment there. But I love the cops stopping her, and every time she goes to answer, like, no, she was with the whole time. She just had to pee. Like,
his earnestness speaks volumes in that scene for sure.
Yeah, so at least like the very end of the movie, I'm left with like a nice little warm fuzzy. And it's good because like so far the movie's just shown every single, I'm not going to count John Hamm, every single man is like a piece of shit. It's like, okay, there's the same thing allegory for our world. There's a ton and millions of terrible men out there, but not everybody's that. And this is the Scott Glenn character who, like, if there's a real universe thing that's shared, then okay, he knows something. If it's not, it's just like, this is just some random bus driver that doesn't want this girl to get in trouble or get hurt, and he's willing to lie and put like his like little career online. Because the cops could have been more dicks and been like, well, we want to see your ticket, we want to know more, but they believed him because he sold it. So I like that as a nice little ending there. Again, though, when she's in the real world and she takes those clothing, even the real world looks like shit. I hate like the background and like the hay. It's just, again, it looks like the volume. That's all it reminded me of. It was bad Star Wars MCU volume where it's like, oh, none of this is here, and it's just one image that's being tweaked a bit. So yeah. Taylor, any other notes?
No, I think that's pretty much all I got.
All right, so Jenna Malone, who played Rocket, was so upset by the film's poor reception, she almost quit acting. So there you go. Because I think it's rocking like a 20% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it's a bomb. It's a big box office bomb. So it's, I think this movie is just for a very specific audience.
It's just interesting that this is the one that she was standing behind, and felt like it.
I guess maybe they just
misunderstood, or maybe she saw those cut scenes and thought that they would have drastically changed the public perception of it.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the reviews were like too. Maybe those actresses were all told like they're bad and this is bad and this is bad and stuff like that.
Rocket sucks.
Yeah, Rocket's the worst. So I can't wait for the MCU's Rocket. Each. Because when did Guardians was not even out yet. What the fuck am I thinking? Yeah, it's a long time. Each of the lead girls underwent strict physical training, which involved doing deadlifts up to 96 kilograms. It's about 211 pounds, which that is nuts. I've never fucking.
That's crazy.
I think I've deadlifted 200 a few times in my life. I don't deadlift anymore because I've read enough of it. It just fucks up your back. So I'll take not being jacked over that. Hudgens called the period tormenting, and she broke down several times. In the scenes where she's been crying, she actually brought out moments from those sessions. So I guess they were training pretty hard to make this work.
Keep filming. Just keep filming.
Yeah. Let's see. Emily Browning claims she'd also been considering giving up acting, but working with Zack Snyder convinced her to stick with it. So, and that's one thing I will say. All actors always said that they have great experiences with Zack. So I'm sure he seems like a fun guy to deal with. So that helps there.
I was randomly looking at like the chef. I'm like, what this guy's IMDb looks like, and he was in Watchmen. He was in Man of Steel as well. So yeah, it seems like you get in the door with Zack Snyder, and it's like James Gunn, like he'll bring you back. You'll be used over and over again.
Yeah.
But Man of Steel was that guy's last movie, so I don't know what he's done acting or something now.
Is he still alive?
I don't know. I didn't say on IMDb.
Is he some chat room wearing a Tobin Bell mask?
Oh my god, I don't want to envision that.
Emily Browning dyed her hair platinum blonde for the role and ended up damaging her hair, in which it had to be cut to a very short pixie style. So that's why if you look, she's a natural.
Wig, so
she's a natural redhead, and that's what you got to do. Because I'm somebody that bleached my hair all the time, but I never fried it. But people can fry your hair the fuck up. So I take great pride that there's someone in Hollywood fucking up these stars' hair, and I did it for years on my own and never had to fucking just pixie cut it. So let's see. There was originally, I talked about that, the high roller scene. We already talked about that. It was cut. So again, the endings sound like studio MPA Snyder. There's a bunch of stuff that they just could not get on the same page. So I'm sure maybe that's why he also says it's not his movie. Maybe he still was just pissed about the ending, right? Maybe he felt that the ending was stronger, but at the time, this was the first film Zack Snyder had directed that was not an adaptation. Before it was 300 and Guardians of the Galaxy, which I think is something, and you got Watchmen. So, Scott Glenn's role was written for him. Amanda Seyfried, Olivia Thirlby, which I don't know who Thirlby is. Olivia Thirlby. It's Thirlby. Thirlby.
I'm trying.
Thank you.
Thirlby.
And Mia Wachowski, we're in turn going to be cast as Baby Doll, but dropped out before Emily Brown was chosen, which is funny because Mia Wachowski was the live action Alice in Wonderland, so would have been some big parallels there.
She was in Oppenheimer.
Who is she in Oppenheimer?
God, Lily Hornig. I don't know.
Oh,
is that
yes,
the
Lily
wife or something?
Hornig.
Is she one of the scientists? I can't remember.
Yeah, I'll have to look. Okay.
She's in Dumb Money too. Apparently, I don't remember her in that.
Is she in Dumb Money 2 or Dumb Money the sequel 2?
What is that sentence?
Did you
There's
say
a sequel to Dumb Money
TOO?
already?
Or
Is
TWO?
Is she Dumb Money 2 or 2WO?
She is in it as well.
Okay, there you
She's
go.
in-
I was just curious. I was curious if they're already working on Dumb Money 2. You never know, right? They whipped that movie together quick. Evan Rachel Wood was the first choice for Rocket, but dropped out due to scheduling conflicts, so Jen Malone replaced her. At one point, Angelina Jolie was in talks for the role of Dr. Vera Gorski, so
I can see it.
yeah, I could see that. And then Emma Stone was considered for the role of Amber, but that went to Jamie Chung, and I think good job on Emma Stone's agents for not going this route.
Yeah, that's a weird role for her.
Yeah, you gotta remember though, right? Like I always forget, like Easy A and stuff like these were like bigger movies, but it's not like what she's doing now, where she's like the next heir to like the best actress in the world now, right? Like there was a path at one point. There's a path to La La Land, and there's a path not that way, and probably being in Sucker Punch leads to the path not that way. You know, like there. I feel like Emma Stone's
Divergent timeline.
yeah, like with her being in that House Bunny Superbad, her career easily could have went a different path. Like
Well,
in my
because then she
opinion.
would have been in Man of Steel. She would have been in Army
She
of
would
the
have been Lois
Dead.
Lane. Fuck,
She would have
yeah.
been all these things.
Yeah. Oh man, she would have Raul Moon. Yeah. Let's Taylor or no Dylan. Final thoughts. I'll end with Taylor because he'll probably have the highest score. So Dylan, final thoughts on Sucker Punch.
Yeah, no, a very weird movie, but an interesting one nonetheless. If this Snyder cut ever gets released, I don't know if I'll watch it. I mean, man, it seems like prime GeekVerse content, so maybe I'll do it. But yeah, otherwise, I don't think I'll ever revisit this one. Yeah, weird movie. There you go.
Pretty much was in the opening. There's kernels of ideas here. There's moments, but overall did not enjoy this. I'm someone that doesn't consider that long, like 210, but it felt long. I paused it an hour. I was like,
Oh, yeah.
fuck, there's still an hour left. And like I said, just because a lot of that action stuff is in the movie tons, and I didn't enjoy it, unfortunately. And the rest of the stuff, even the great mysteries, like it's not that great. So I will give this a 4 out of 5. I can't pass it. A 4 is for some ideas. I don't think the acting's like overall bad in here or anything like that. I think there's some cool shots here and there. But yeah, I gotta fail this one, a 4 out of 5. So just under the passing grade. So Kirkland.
Yeah, I'm glad I had a reason to check this one out because this is definitely one I would have probably gotten to my end days without ever seeing this and. I just never seen this this adventure.
I never saw a Sucker Punch.
It's tricky.
Deathbed.
It's tricky because I feel like again, like if I saw it in 2011, maybe these like poorly done, like colorful shots of the CGI things, like it probably wouldn't have affected me too much. I probably would have actually enjoyed those action sequences a lot more. But right now, like the only thing I really have to give it is just the attempt of like what they were doing. Like this definitely isn't like a cookie cutter movie, where it follows like the same pattern that many other movies have. So I'll give them credit in that aspect. I think I still have to fail it though, just for the overall execution of it.
I thought a pass was coming there with that. So.
It's like a hesitant. Yeah, no, I was thinking like a 5 out of 10 just because of like the anime concepts that they're trying to bring in here. But maybe it's a reason that a lot of anime type adaptations to live action don't really execute well because it is just something that works a lot easier in animated. Because like, man, if I saw an animated version of this movie, like I could see this actually being like pretty top tier. But who knows? I don't think we'll ever get the anime adaptation of Sucker Punch. It's pretty rare to get a live action into an animated thing. Well, I guess Scott Pilgrim's kind of like that, right? I don't know if it started in comic book or whatnot. But anyways, I'll give this one a 4.5 out of 10. A little bit of a half step up from Travis there. But yeah, never going to revisit this one. Snyder Cut comes out. I don't think I'll ever visit. I think I'm like with Dylan. If there's a big uproar of the fans that make me want to revisit this, but like I just don't know what would really be added that fixes this. But I also kind of said that about the Justice League thing, right? Like I was really discounting the whole Snyder cut thing for Justice League, and I watched it and I'm like, man, this is actually such a great film. So I don't know if you tack on 3 more hours to this, maybe you get that great movie. But holy crap, that's a long film already on top of a 2 hour and 10-minute film. So yeah.
Favorite film.
I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. I think our conversation definitely highlighted some things that were very problematic in retrospect with this film that I definitely did not clue into right away, but talking and breaking down some of the scenes and how things were inconsistent and some things were poorly explained and covered. That's all out there now. So, yeah, I feel pretty good with my rating. If there does seem like this is going to happen, like a Snyder Cut version of this with some extra stuff.
It's been deemed the Snyder Punch. That's what
the
it
Snyder
is.
Punch?
Release the
I'm
Snyder
totally,
Punch.
I'm totally
That's
in.
the campaign.
I'm going to watch it. I'm totally in whenever this happens. So it should be a good time.
I'd rather just make a new thing. Don't go back to this.
Yeah. It's tough as if it's the one that got away, right? It's haunting him in the middle of the night.
Haunting him.
Maybe.
Haunting me.
So. Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That is our Snyder retrospective. Tune in next week. We'll be talking about Rebel Moon, which should be very interesting to see how that goes. So until then, it'll not be boring.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.